Hi, this is Roger, and I want to go over with you the lesson that I did. The topic I chose was healthy relationships versus unhealthy relationships. This is a lesson that I've done several times in our eighth grade health classes. The teacher usually asks me to come in each quarter, towards the end of the quarter, and talk to the students about this topic. Up until now, I had not used technology in the lesson. I pretty much went in, had the discussion, and that was it. But this gave me a chance to work on incorporating technology into a lesson, and I really believe it enhanced the lesson and made it more meaningful for students. So the standards that were covered fall under the Georgia Performance Standards in Health Education, also the American School Counselor Association standards, and then of course the technology standards since I was incorporating the technology into the lesson. So, as I said, the lesson focused on healthy relationships versus unhealthy relationships. We also talked about assertive rights when it comes to relationships. We didn't do as much on that, but we did get into that, and the students worked on a small presentation for that. So basically, what we did was I divided the students into groups, and I had looked at Power School before I went in the class, looked at the class rosters, and also talked with the teacher and kind of determined how best to group the students. And I wanted to do this heterogeneously and make sure that there were students of differing abilities within each group. And that way they could support each other during the lesson because the lesson is mainly discussion. There's very little, writing. There's not research and things like that, but just a lot of discussion. So the first thing the students did once they got in their groups was they assigned a recorder, and they had the recorder write down as they came up with different characteristics of healthy relationships and those of unhealthy relationships. So as I went around and monitored, I made sure they were on the right track. And then I opened up a Padlet page on the computer and projected it on the screen in front of the room. And the students were at computers, each group was at a computer. And I gave them the link. They opened up the Padlet page. I showed them how to post. And so they started posting their ideas and thoughts about healthy and unhealthy relationships. And so they could see each time they posted it, you don't have to refresh. It just automatically pops up once they hit enter, they click, and they could start seeing not only their posts but the other group's posts, and so that generated some excitement and some interest in seeing what others were coming up with. So once we were finished with that, or once the students were finished with their posts, then of course we came back as a class and we discussed what they had come up with, talked about the different characteristics and examples, and if anybody misunderstood or didn't understand something, kind of helped explain that. Had a little debate because, like arguing, some groups thought it would be healthy and some unhealthy, and so we talked about when arguing becomes unhealthy, when it gets physically or emotionally abusive, but it can be part of communication as well in a healthy relationship. So there was some good discussion there. I then talked to the students about their Prezi presentations and briefly talked about that, and they were going to start those the next day. And so over the course of the next couple of days, they worked on those. And basically, their assignment was in the presentation, they had to include a certain number of characteristics for each healthy relationships, unhealthy relationships. And for each characteristic, they had to make sure that they either put an example or a very brief explanation um, for that characteristic. So this is one of the ones that someone came up with. And overall, the groups did a good job on their presentations. There were some that had some spelling issues and so forth, but overall was fine. Their Voki presentations were on assertive rights, and this is one of the ones the group did.
You have the right to say yes. You have the right to say no. You have the right to be yourself.
And so each group that had time did one of those, and so those can actually be used for public service announcements or to present to other groups. But that is my lesson, and I hope maybe at some point someone might be able to use it. And I welcome any suggestions about it. Overall, it went very well.